Hi everybody, my name's Eric Beland. My company is BrowserUp. This is a project that I've worked on for a long time. More recently we've got a little bit of funding and we're started doing pilots with people. What I'm here to talk about today is how our tool that we've created will help you shift performance testing left. So just specifically in terms of load testing, if you think about the software development lifecycle, it's usually somewhere over here, most often is what I see when I talk to people, right before your sprint ends. Okay, let's hurry up, or before you release and do a load test. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it causes some problems. So usually very often I see there's an aggressive schedule, and if you do this testing at the end, you've really set yourself up to find problems when it's going to be kind of catastrophic to fix it, because performance problems are not always easy fixes, and because of that you've basically potentially blown up your release, which is not a great thing. And so there's a lot of time pressure at the end to try and hurry up and do this testing, and most often it happens at the end because it's a separate tool and it's a separate set of people sometimes, but not always. But the question I had is, why hasn't this really kind of moved left? Why aren't people doing it earlier? And part of the problem is that it usually requires a separate set of tooling and knowledge to actually make it happen. So often that's load runner or JMeter. That comes with, and then there's also a kind of a problematic part of the process, which is correlation, right? So if you're going to mimic the traffic that's going to a website at the HTTP level, if you want to do what a browser does without running browsers, you need to correlate it and basically make those session IDs carry through. But that is all things that maybe take separate people or a separate time in the process, but it doesn't have to. And there's some things that have changed that make it so that maybe HTTP level traffic isn't the way to test or load test a website. And in terms of the problems of those kinds of recorded HTTP level traffic websites, basically either they're stale the moment they're recorded, right? As soon as any other change, any assets added to a page, you put a footer on, you do anything like that, your load test is no longer accurate. This actually happened. I worked at Constant Contact, and basically we added a footer that took 2 seconds to load, and our load test was recorded previously, and it ran in our CI/CD, and it was giving a thumbs up, but it wasn't requesting the footer, which took 2 seconds to load, which was over our SLA anyway. So basically you have a choice between having the script run it in CI/CD in the current world, or having it be fresh and having a human get into the process. So how can we fix things? Like what could be done differently? Well, there's something that's changed, and that's that cloud computing, it used to be back, I've been in the load testing industry since around the 90s, late 90s, sorry, 98, 99, that if you wanted to simulate a bunch of if you wanted to run a bunch of browsers, that you couldn't really fit that on a box. Like it wasn't practical. You'd have to get a box in a data center. There was no cloud. But now there is, and it's now become affordable to run with real browsers, and so that kind of begs the question, like, well, if you're going to do that, what do you want to use to drive that? And I think that our solution is kind of compelling in the sense that we let you use the scripts that you're already maintaining, so Selenium scripts potentially could be, and also the same code, the page objects and things like that you're using to run your acceptance tests. That same code can be used to run load tests. So you can maintain one thing, and you can pull it earlier in the process. You can have extreme ownership of it. So our approach uses real browsers. You can also, you don't have to use browsers in our approach. You could actually just wire up an API test, and it will get you the rich metrics and reports that we have. So this lets you use fewer tools, lets you do CI/CD without the stale recording problem, and it gives you a single code base for your load and acceptance tests. So before, the cycle for testing used to kind of look like this. You would re-record, run your correlation, validate the test, load test, and release. Whereas with ours, because you've already made the acceptance test before you're going to go out, it's usually able to be done much sooner in the cycle. So let's see. So yeah, so you don't have to delay the release to do this. Now now everyone's enabled to do it who can write those tests. You don't need as many tools, and you can start testing sooner and get to market faster. So how does it work? Well, let's say, for example, that you're using Java. You can take the jar that you've got for your acceptance tests, and we've got a command line interface. You define your tests and then run in your EC2 account. It can run without a browser, so that's not a requirement. And I'm just going to jump out here and just show a little bit of code real quick. I'm having trouble with that escape key also. Okay, all right. So, so if this, is that visible? So, so in our project, we package actually as an example app the Spring Pet Clinic. And so this is some page object tests for that. So basically, I've just got kind of standard page object tests with my selectors defined to run Selenium tests and kind of do the standard things. And then if to annotate this for the load test, basically we can declare our transactions, and so here's our page object, and wrap steps around those so that we collect the timings automatically. And so this basically, what you see here has taken those same acceptance tests and basically enhanced them so that they're ready to run in a load system. And then in order to actually run that, we have that is not what I want. There we are. We have a command line app, so this can run in CI/CD. And basically what happens is I can generate a YAML file here, which defines the load test. So this says run the owner script and the add pet script, and then it specifies the script, the allocation, so 50%, browser to use, Chrome, think time, whether you want to use a data bank, so you can pass in a CSV file to get information. And that's all it takes to define a test. If you then run from the command line, BrowserUp, BrowserUp start and then the name of the test, it will just file, if you put in your EC2 credentials, it will run this up in the cloud, scale it to the desired number of people, let you collect data and reports, and give you a report back like this. So we've got URL response times, hits per second, bytes per second, and those sorts of things. So we've got all of our step times and all that information. So basically you can get your load tests essentially for free out of your acceptance tests. And you can move that earlier in the process and basically make it so that instead of doing it at the last minute, you can actually do that earlier and get a little bit of extreme ownership going there. So just to tie it in with the last talk. But so yeah, so that's the gist of it. And then let's see. So and then I think I have a last slide here for so in terms of I showed off JavaScript, showed off Java. We actually have other language bindings that are actually already in beta for JavaScript, Python, and Ruby. And what else? Oh, and one last thing. So what else can it test? It can actually test APIs. It can test, maximize that, arbitrary containers. You could actually wire it up to even SSH. You could actually, if you put those little step timings around it, it can capture those times as well. So anything that you want to capture, scale, and basically it wraps it into a container. You could, in theory, you might be able to put mabl into this. So I don't know how you guys have implemented things, but if it can be put into a container and scaled, it could work actually. And let's see. And that's it. There's my contact info. Right now we're doing pilots. We're looking for more people who are willing to try it. We also are free for anything under 50 users. So just free forever. You can just, if you've got a small thing, you just let it go. So, and any questions?
Sounds cool.
Thanks. hope so. I've been working on it for a while. So, let's see.
How many browsers does it have?
So right now, we did a test this morning with 5,000, types of browsers? Oh, sorry. So right now, let's see, Chrome and Firefox at the moment. So we don't have, we haven't done anything with Internet Explorer or whatever. Totally feasible. Yeah, so.
What about like a Mac Safari?
That is an interesting question. I'd have to look into that. That's probably, I can picture how I would do Internet Explorer right now. I'd have to look to see how to do Safari. However, that said, what we do is we put a proxy in between the requests. So if you just need this, for a load test, a lot of it is about the traffic. So if you just want to appear as Safari, we actually can put a proxy in between and rewrite the header so it looks like it's Safari. It wouldn't give you the same like UI stuff, but usually that's not as much what you're after in that scenario. But yeah, in that case, and from that perspective, you could actually emulate any kind of browser or client. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.